Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. Now you're tuned into the sunrise, and I'm here to keep you company all the way until 9 a.m. So make sure you stay tuned because obviously I'll be here to keep talking to you about everything that you need to know. All right. Now make sure you stay tuned because I'm going to head into a small break, and after that, I will be back to keep talking about this. Welcome back to the show. Like I was just saying, we're going to be talking about some really interesting things. So make sure you stay tuned. All right. Now, if you want to share your thoughts and you want to share your opinions with me, make sure to get in touch with me. You can call me or even text me on 078 Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're feeling. And let me know what you exactly think about whatever it is that we're going to be discussing today. All right. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is because we're going to be talking about what exactly happened to Boris Johnson's popularity. And, well, I mean, it's not much of a surprise what actually happened, to be quite honest. And we will discuss this further as well. But throughout his 2 years of being prime minister, he's done so many controversial things. I'm still, it's surprising that people still at least like him 3%. So that's just what it is, right? Because of all the controversial things he's done with regard to the pandemic, with regard to that, trip that he took, and there's so many other controversial things that Boris Johnson has done. All right, so that is why we're talking about all of that. And make sure you stay tuned because, like I said, I want to know your thoughts. I want to know your opinions on what exactly we're going to be talking about. All right, so let me know what you think about this. Let me know your experiences and your opinions, because here at Relax Radio, we care about your opinions, we care about what you have to say, and we want to know what you are saying. All right, Relax Radio is all about you. We want to know about you. All right, and it's also about all the positivity and no negativity. So I guess in a way this is some form of positivity early in the morning as well. So make sure you stay tuned. All right, now before we actually head back into our conversation, you can actually go follow us on our socials. Now you can like us on Facebook, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And that way you can actually make sure that you're always informed and you're listening to the conversation, right? Because the conversation is always happening 24/7, 24/7, right? We talk about sports, science, technology, health, whatever it is that you want to know, we talk about all of it, anything and everything. All right. And don't forget to download our app either, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. That way you can actually make sure that you're always informed, you're a part of the show, and you're listening to us and making sure that you are joining this discussion live as well. All right, now let's actually get into our conversation because we obviously have a lot left to talk about. Right now, what exactly happened to Boris Johnson's popularity is the question. Now, the Prime Minister's approval ratings among Tory activists have actually plummeted since he tried to dodge self-isolation, and this was actually found by a survey yesterday. All right. Now, we all know the whole fiasco that happened when he tried to dodge self-isolation, and it wasn't just him; it was Rishi Sunak as well. And surprisingly, Rishi Sunak's popularity or his ratings are actually pretty much at above 70, right? Which means that his ratings have pretty much been consistent, whereas Boris Johnson's ratings have in fact plummeted ever since last year. All right, so that is what we're going to be talking about. And like I said, they've actually found that his ratings have in fact reduced significantly ever since he tried to dodge self-isolation, right? And the poll that was actually conducted by the Conservative Home it was conducted by the Conservative Home website, actually found that Boris Johnson's rating had dropped from 39.2% last month to just 3.4%. All right, so his ratings right now is 3.4%, and that takes him to the bottom 5 members of the cabinet. And obviously, I have to say it's a bit hilarious. All right, because it's not something unexpected. A lot of people saw this coming, right? Because a lot of people have said that he mismanaged the pandemic, that the way he was handling the pandemic was in fact terrible, and that happens to be the reason why or rather one of the reasons why his approval ratings have dropped so much. All right, so that is what's happening with Boris Johnson. And make sure you stay tuned and make sure you share your thoughts and your opinions, because I want to know what you feel about this conversation as well. Okay, now the fall actually follows controversy over Mr. Johnson's attempt to avoid self-isolation after he was identified as a close contact of the Health Secretary Sajid Javid, who tested positive last month. All right, now this is why this whole fiasco happened, because he refused to, or rather he tried to avoid self-isolation, especially after Mr. Sajid Javid was tested positive for COVID-19. Now the Prime Minister rather and Chancellor Rishi Sunak initially joined a cabinet office pilot scheme that would have actually allowed them to avoid quarantine. And that's when this whole rating things came into play, right? Because people were thinking, hey, you know what, it's not fair that you, the leader of our country, gets to just have fun and not really pay attention to the rules and abide by the rules, right? Which honestly, if you are the leader of a country, you have to sort of lead by example, right? Whatever rules that are implemented for other people, you should be able to follow those as well. So obviously that was a very, very big issue. Now make sure you stay tuned, because right now we're going to head into a small break, and after that we will be back to keep talking about this. But until then, make sure you stay tuned.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
Comparison to now,
not at all, not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no, if that makes sense.
They can't accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you, how did I do? Or you didn't do very well, and they get upset, and when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young, well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, he might say to me, you had one to forget. That's it.
Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, yeah, that's the real fact of the matter. Yeah.
You know, he said to me, "You had one to forget. Get over it," and that was it. So I dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. An inquest. They'd have me. Why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well. In the UK, you know, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. You know, when it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. You know how much. A lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, you know, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. You know, for the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid. I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. Now you're tuned into the sunrise, and it is, in fact, you know, we're having a very, very important conversation because we're having a conversation about Boris Johnson and why exactly his popularity ratings dropped so much. Okay. And obviously, you know, what I was telling you earlier as well is that it's not something unexpected, right? It's not something we did not see coming, because to be quite honest, he has done multiple things that have created a lot of controversy, that has received a lot of criticism. So obviously it's not a big surprise that he is in fact, that he does in fact have such low ratings. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Now you're tuned into the sunrise, and I'm here to keep you company all the way until 9 a.m, so make sure you stay tuned. All right, and don't forget to text me on 078 to share your thoughts, share your opinions with me, because I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what it is that you feel and about this. All right, so make sure to share your thoughts with me, make sure to share your opinions with me, because I would love to share it with everyone else who is listening in as well. All right, so don't forget to do that. And also something else that you really need to do, or that you can keep in mind, is that you actually can go and follow us on our socials. So if you go like us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, or rather if you go follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and like us on Facebook, and subscribe to us on YouTube. That way you can actually make sure that you're always informed about the very latest that happens, not just here in the UK, but in fact all over the world as well. Okay, and don't actually forget to download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. That way you can actually make sure that you're informed, you're updated, and you are aware about everything that you have to say. And whatever conversation it is that you want to join, because we talk about sports, science, health, whatever it is that you want to talk about, we talk about all of it. All right, so don't forget to do that. And that's what I wanted to remind you. Now let's actually quickly head into our conversation, because I still have a lot more left to tell you about Boris Johnson's popularity ratings. All right. Now, obviously, the main reason that has exacerbated the drop in, or rather plummeted the drop in popularity ratings, happens to be happens to be Boris Johnson's attempt to avoid self-isolation, right? Now obviously there was a lot of backlash that they received. So hours later, the two men, which is Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson, agreed to isolate after a lot of public backlash, right? And on the survey, only Community Secretary Robert Jenrick, Conservative Party co-chairman Amanda Milling, and Education Secretary Gavin Williamson are in fact rated below Mr. Johnson. All right. And the slump also follows the controversy over vaccine passports, something else that was again controversial, because 2 months ago, the prime minister actually had a net approval rating of 55.6%. All right. So you can understand that the reason that these approval ratings for the prime minister are dropping so fast is obviously because of the multiple controversial things he has done. I mean, in my opinion, I just feel like he wouldn't be Boris Johnson if he didn't do something controversial. At least, once a month, once a week, he has to do something, right? And a lot of people have criticized him. A lot of people have reported this as his as his need for constant attention. He likes to stir up some drama and then get attention, and then go on to cause some sort of fiasco, right? Because that's what it has been explained as. Right now, like I said, this is just what we've seen throughout the past few months, actually throughout the past 2 years of Boris Johnson being our prime minister, right? However, even with all of this, even with Boris Johnson getting terrible popularity ratings, Rishi Sunak's popularity ratings actually supposed to be, or rather, they remain quite unaffected, right? Because he still remains the second most popular member of the cabinet, with Tory activists with a net approval rating of 74.1%. All right, so that's just what it is, and that's just how it has turned. That's just how it has changed. Now, the most recent survey that was conducted also found that a very narrow majority of Tory activists now believe that the prime minister is dealing with the pandemic badly. All right. And 44.4% of activists said that the prime minister was handling the crisis well, in comparison to 48% who actually said that he wasn't handling it that well. Okay, because they very blatantly said that he was handling it very, very badly. So then you have two sides of this coin here, right? Basically, it's basically a weighing scale, or not necessarily a coin, but basically a weighing scale, because you have 44.4% of people saying, look, he's dealing with the crisis quite well, and that's just on one hand, whereas you have the other hand of people saying, look, he's not really doing all that well, and that's 48%. So obviously, the people who believe that he's doing a terrible job actually outweigh the people who think he's doing a good enough job. And because of that, because of all of that, it's quite obvious that in the recent or in the next few coming months, that the Tories might actually lose a lot of the popularity that they had in comparison, or in comparison to the popularity they had at the beginning, right? Where they had a lot of popularity, they were well liked, whereas right now that really isn't what seems to be happening, right? Now, the poll of Tory members had previously given 93% rating for Prime Minister Boris Johnson after the 2019 election, right? However, it's 2021, and we've had to deal with a lot of crisis, right? England as a whole has had to deal with a lot of crisis, and because of that, obviously, because of the way it's been handled as well, and a lot of the controversies surrounding Boris Johnson, like the trip that was like that trip that created a lot of controversy, right? Because there was a lack of clarity, and nothing exactly was told to the public, right? So that created a lot of controversy. Then with Dominic Cummings telling us about how exactly the prime minister is like, and that whole fiasco was something else that created a lot of controversy, right? So if anything, if you really take the 2 years that Boris Johnson has been the prime minister, it has been, everything that is controversial, right? It has been everything that is controversial, and that's just the truth of it, right? Everything is done, everything is said, has caused some form of controversy. Now, you remember, even at the beginning of the pandemic, he was very skeptical, and he really underestimated the pandemic. And then after he got COVID, that's when he really started to change his mind, and think to himself, oh look, it's actually as bad as they say. I underestimated it. So like I said, it comes as no surprise that his approval has dropped, and this is something that we all saw coming as well. Right now, in comparison to him, Liz Truss, who happens to be the trade secretary, as is actually the most popular cabinet member, right? Because she has a satisfaction rating of 89%. All right, so that's just difference between Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. But make sure you stay tuned, because we will be back in a few more minutes to keep talking about a whole lot of other things that are relevant to Boris Johnson. So until then, make sure that you stay tuned. All right.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday. And what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow.